So what's going to happen here is we're going to go through, like I said, we're going to go through and find an article that stands out to us, right? If you don't find one that you're in love with today, that's fine. You've got until our next class to discover the article that you want. Once you find that article that you want, I expect you guys to actually go through and read the article so that you know what the heck you're doing. Don't just read like the headline. That doesn't really help us. So go through and actually read that article. We're going to be doing 3 separate stages for this actual illustration. Okay, 3 separate stages. So for your midterm project, when you submit it, you will submit 3 separate individual files, right? For the sake of ease, we're just going to say submit all 3 as PDFs. Just across the board, submit all 3 as PDFs. It's going to be the easiest way to go. So I've gone ahead. I'm on the Associated News website here. I've gone ahead and I found an article that sounded pretty interesting to me. 2 Japanese businessmen charged in tech hardware price fixing. And it goes on talking about how these 2 fellas here are working, or have been working, to basically kind of stabilize and lock in the prices for different technological elements. They were able to, they were caught, and both of them here, or both the charges, you can see, carry a 10-year prison sentence and a $1 million fine. That's for each person if they are actually found guilty. So they're only charged right now. They haven't been found guilty quite yet. But price fixing is a big problem. Price fixing is whenever you have more than one company kind of locking in the actual price. So say, for example, that, I don't know what, Hampton University, ODU, and Norfolk University, say secretly they get together and they say, okay, look, even though we're competitors, we're going to go ahead and make sure that all of us are charging the exact same amount for college. No one is cheaper, no one is more expensive, everyone's the exact same. That way, if you want to go to school here, you're basically forced to pay this amount of money because we own the market. It's kind of like a mini monopoly, something like that, right? So that's what these guys were charged with. I think that's a pretty interesting article. I think there's some information here that could be kind of interesting. Maybe I'd want to grasp somebody's attention. So step 1, I'm going to go ahead and crack open Photoshop. Like I said, we're going to be using all 3 of the big Adobe programs, Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign. I'm going to start in Photoshop to do my thumbnailing. This is the very first assignment that we have where I want to encourage you to use your Wacom tablet or your drawing graphics tablet. After this project, after the midterm here, we are going to be using Photoshop and the graphics tablet exclusively. We're going to get into digital drawing, digital painting. So from here on out, it's a good time to start practicing or at least playing around with this graphics tablet, getting comfortable with it. For this first project with Photoshop here, they do not need to be really well-drawn pictures, but I do expect your thumbnails to be digital as a way of kind of getting you acclimated to utilizing a drawing tablet. Many of your drawing tablets, you might have to download the actual hardware for them. If that's the case, and if you need help doing that, make sure to talk to me. I'm more than happy to help you with that. My screen is very blown out because of the projector right now, so I'm going to go ahead and open up a brand new file as soon as the pinwheel of death goes away. I'm just going to do 8.5 by 11. That's perfectly fine for me. Okay. All right, so I'm in Photoshop, and a couple things very quickly. So your graphics tablet, right, even though it looks like a pen and all this, at the end of the day, all it is a teeny tiny little mouse. That's all it is. Now, depending on which one you purchased, you might have pressure sensitivity. You might be able to push harder, push lighter, and have more control over your graphics tablet. But for right now, for this actual project, I'm not too worried about how perfect it looks. I just kind of want an overall design. So, what's that?
Is that 11 by 17?
This is 8.5 by 11. Yeah, 8.5 by 11. So, starting out, I'm just going to make a couple layers here so I can kind of jump between them. That's just me. I like layers.
Do you have a size preference?
For the actual doodle, no, I don't. No. So when we're all said and done, you guys are going to turn in a 2-paged document, 2-page layout. So when we're all said and done, it will be 11 by 17 sliced in half. That will be the final document. So it would not be a bad idea to sit here and kind of adjust my overall actions. Hey, bud.
Good morning.
Cool. What's up? I'm doing a demo.
That's fine. I
Okay.
was gonna wait till you.
It's a like 40-minute demo.
Okay.
Do you need help?
I was trying to submit it the way you put it in the folders.
Oh.
It wasn't working.
Okay, all right, I'll help you with it. Anyway, so we're gonna go ahead and I can always adjust my canvas size. Let's see here. So we'll do 11 by 17 instead. Just like that. So I can always pull up my rulers. I just did Command R. And I can always drag out 8.5. So that kind of shows me my 2 individual pages, right? I'm just grabbing my paintbrush. Now, if you haven't used Photoshop before, you may not know, but there are a bunch of different brushes that you can utilize, that you can kind of get into. For right now, I'm not too concerned with it. A general, normal old round brush is absolutely fine. Again, I do not expect you guys to have beautiful, clean, amazing looking pictures. We're going to make a mess here. This is a thumbnail. It is supposed to be kind of gross and nasty and whatever. So, close that up. Get out of there. And I'm going to change my color just to black. That works fine for me. All right, so now I'm switching over. I'm now using my, my tablet here. And so when I'm thinking about my article, right, what comes to mind? Well, okay, so I got Japanese, so 2 Japanese businessmen, price fixing, right? They're dealing with fixing hardware. Technology, totally, right? There's big fines involved. They're locking in the price quotes overall. Here's a big quote. The individuals indicted yesterday tried to cheat the system and unfairly profit. So what if I just grab like a quote, you know, cheat the system and unfairly profit, right? So for me, personally, the things that jump out, I've got a couple different elements here real quick. So I'm going to play around. So I'm just thinking about the overall page, the overall kind of elements going on. So what if I had, let's see, what if I wanted to do like my article, maybe I want to start the article here, like put a big quote or something, that'd be kind of cool, kind of eye-catching, some big quote here, maybe actually put the article itself, do like columns, right? Okay, so 2 big columns, right? Maybe like the title of the actual article right there, put the author's name, and then for an image, I'm thinking like, okay, I'm thinking Japan, I'm thinking prison, I'm thinking money, right? So I could have, what could I do? I could do like maybe the silhouette of Japan, which clearly does not look like inverted California. Maybe I put, let's see, what could I do? I could do like the yen symbol, because they're price fixing in Japan. Or maybe, you know, it's dealing with America, so maybe it's a big dollar sign. What if I did like a, oops, come here, like a dollar sign over top? Or, ooh, what if I patterned like a whole bunch of dollar signs? Cha-ching, 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 cha-ching. Something like this, okay. And then what else could I do? I'm going to switch my color real quick. Do like a light gray. What if in the background I've just got like some really long, kind of like light bars, like there's just a background kind of, like a border of some sort, and that would kind of show this like idea of prison, right? That's a insanely rough thumbnail, right? That is not anything pretty. What's nice is if you do them on different layers, unlike what I just did, if you do them on different layers, then I'd be able to move these elements around a little bit, right? So, for example, I'll just back this up. Yep. Bring one of my layers down. Make this a little bit cleaner here real quick. I'm going to use the marquee tool, my square rectangle select here. I'm going to do a nice little wallpaper. Let's see. I kind of want a lighter gray maybe. Fill these guys in. Copy paste. Paste. So that just gives it kind of a cool vertical kind of element to it. I don't really personally like the placement of all this stuff here. So we're going to go ahead and play with that. I just did Command T so that I could transform my design. Kind of get that like centered maybe. Let's move that Japan. Command T. I think it should be a whole lot bigger. And this is kind of the benefit of working with working digitally is that you can edit stuff very quickly, very much on the fly, right? Something like that. And what if like pieces of this Japan here, what if they were like hiding behind, bless you, hiding behind the wall here? So they're kind of like tucked in there, right? So I'd have to play with it a little bit. You know, thinking about colors real quick. Again, I'm keeping everything digital. Make a new layer underneath. Maybe underneath here we've got like some nice blue for water. Do you guys happen to know what blue's complementary color is? Orange, yeah. So blue's complementary color is orange. This type of blue, this kind of cyan, is more of like a reddish orange, kind of like a beet red kind of color. So in that case, I'm going to go ahead and do, like Japan itself, I'm going to go ahead and color in. I can always make my paintbrush larger by going up to this top and adjusting the size. Or if I look down at my keyboard, if I use the bracket keys, I can actually make my paintbrush larger as well. They're over by your enter key. So it kind of makes things easier. You can hotkey and kind of get stuff in there real quick. It's coloring in. And it's working. It's coloring in because it is behind on a separate layer. Again, I'm going to jump back and forth here real quick. So as you're working on your thumbnails, again, I'm just making this up as we go here. As we're working on our thumbnails, you want something that's going to be eye-catching. Maybe I throw, like for the blue, what if I did like a gradient? That would kind of be a little more eye-catching maybe. So I'm kind of figuring out all these details ahead of time, right? And that's really, really what I want to encourage you guys to do is come up with this stuff ahead of time. Don't just sit around and hope that it kind of falls into your lap. I'm just going to do a Gaussian blur real quick, kind of cheat a gradient. Something like that, right? Okay, a little more eye-catching, right? Got a gradient, got the red Japan dollar signs there. Maybe the dollar signs are like yellow. I think that would maybe stand out even more. So I can figure everything out, even though this is atrocious, right? I would never show this to a client, right? They would think I'm absolutely like a crazy person. But for you and I, oh yeah, that yellow, that's gonna pop. I could also do, I guess you could do like green, maybe like a lime green instead. What would that look like? Let's see. And that green would look good against that red. Yeah, like a little wall of green dollar signs. So very quickly, I ended up with something that I'm happy with, right? Maybe the text here has like a green shadow underneath of it. That'd be pretty cool. All right, so I'm pretty happy with this. Didn't take me all that long, and I literally made it up on the fly, so hopefully it balances out a little bit. You don't have to spend a crazy amount of time on your thumbnail, right? You really don't. I want to highly encourage you to make multiple thumbnails. For this assignment, I only need you to submit one. That's all I need. Right? I do not expect you to sit down and hammer out 10, 15, 20, 30 different digital thumbnails, because what I expect is that you're going to edit it along the way, just like I did here, right? So I don't expect you to make a thumbnail, save, start a new one. Make a new thumbnail, save, start a new one. I expect instead that you're going to edit it digitally along the way, right? So now the name of the game is, okay, I've got this really hideous looking design, right? It is scribbly. I could never send this to anyone of importance, but it is definitely more than enough information for me to know what I'm gonna do, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and save this. For this particular project, I'm actually gonna save it as a JPEG, but when you're submitting these, when you're gonna turn them into me online, I'm gonna ask you guys to save it as a PDF. So I'm gonna save it as a JPEG. Maximum is fine, and we'll go ahead and close out of this. So now, I'm going to switch over into Adobe Illustrator. Illustrator is going to give me much cleaner lines, much more control over my illustration, and a little bit more capability than just Photoshop. So I started designing it in Photoshop. I've now switched over into Illustrator. Whenever I get into Illustrator, I'm going to go ahead and open up the picture that I just created. And in Illustrator, all I'm worried about doing is the literal illustration, the actual design. I'm not worried about placing text. I'm not worried about trying to make those columns. We're going to do all of that in Adobe InDesign. Cool? Say again? It will be, yes. And I'm just I'm just literally going to trace and draw over top of it. Now, in my case, while Illustrator's opening, because it's going to take its sweet time, In my case, I don't really know, apparently, you saw my design there, I don't really apparently know what Japan looks like. I probably should do a little research. So I'm going to find a image of Japan. Now, instead of just hunting around for a pre-made like vector where I'm just going to like steal it, I don't want to steal anything. So I'm going to find just a map. I'm going to make a vector myself. We'll grab it off of Wikipedia. It's a good place to go. That looks pretty good. Nice royalty-free image there. I'm going to go ahead and save that as well. We'll use that image, and that way I'm not worried about any copyright infringement issues.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
Do you think it would make a difference if you use dollar signs or like Japanese yen?
So yes and no. I probably, in my case, I would go back and read through the article and see, are they price fixing Japanese currency? Are they price fixing American currency? As I was reading through the article the first time around, it was very apparent that the price fixing was affecting the American market. So that's why I'm going to choose to go with dollar sign. But it's an excellent, excellent question to make sure you're not just picking something that relates to us as Americans, right? Make sure you're picking something that relates to the actual article. When in doubt, when you have questions like that, and you're all going to at some point, when you have questions like that, go back and reread the article. Make sure that you're doing every element of this illustration purposefully, right? But excellent, excellent question. So for mine, I'm going to do 8.5 by 11 because in my case, my illustration is just half of that 11 by 17. It's just one page. If your illustration spreads across 2 pages, then you might want to do 11 by 17. It all matters how you want to do yours. I'm going to do 8.5 by 11 for mine.
Do we cite ourselves too since we're taking information?
Do you cite yourself?
Yeah, the stuff. No, cite like information.
You will. So we're actually going to use the literal article, and yes, we will cite where it comes from the Associated Press.
Like online or just like.
No, I'll show you how. We're literally just going to tag the actual website itself, and we'll make sure that the author's name is on it and all that kind of jazz. Yeah. Yes. Very good question. Okay, so I've got Illustrator open and running and ready to go. Again, my screen's a little bit condensed and kind of crunched over here. I apologize. That's just my projector. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and open, or I guess I could just place. That would be even easier, right? And I'll grab my image real quick. There it is. Place it in there. All right, looking good. So again, I'm just going to kind of place that there, my one single page. I'm going to make a new layer over top. I'm going to lock my bottom layer, and that way I can't mess up my design. I also need to go ahead and place my little picture of Japan. We'll just go ahead and place that there, holding down Shift to get it about the size that I want. Again, rough estimate here. Old Tokyo. All right, looking pretty good. Same thing, lock, new layer. All right, so I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to do a very rough pen design of Japan. I would spend so much more time making sure this really looks as beautiful as it can. But again, for the sake of time, for the sake of this demo, I'm going to go extra quick. So I apologize for my roughness here. And again, think about how you want to stylize yours, right? Right now, I'm kind of just literally outlining the outlining Japan here. But maybe if I want to make this country a little bit different looking, if I want to go way more stylized, I could do more kind of right angles, something like this, you know, more kind of blocky. As long as it's recognizable and it gets the point across, and no one just thinks there's this weird like blob on the paper. If it works, it works.
Can you outline it with your pencil? Not the actual pencil, but like the tablet?
Using the graphics tablet? Absolutely, yes. You can use that graphics tablet anywhere that you can use a mouse.
Is it easier to do it with the mouse and the computer?
It's a good question. It's personal preference, really. For me personally, I prefer using the mouse in Illustrator because it gives me a little more precision. And I much prefer using my tablet in Photoshop. When I'm working at home for myself, I very rarely use the mouse in Photoshop. I almost always use my graphics tablet. I find that it really does so much more when I'm dealing with like individual pixels. But when I'm dealing with kind of nodes and vectors and all sorts of stuff, I like the pen tool. But that's also kind of tradition. Like that's what I'm used to. I know plenty of graphic designers, plenty of illustrators who only use graphics tablets, like at all. They don't even own a mouse. So try it, see how you feel about it, and you might be surprised. All right, so that looks kind of like Japan. I'm going to go ahead and group these. I'm going to go ahead and change the color. I want that beet red, or kind of, I wanted like an orangey red, didn't I? Let's do that instead. I'm going to knock out my stroke real quick, get rid of that. Okay. Expand it to the size that I want, holding shift to make sure that it's perfectly straight. Looks pretty good, something like that looks pretty nice. Okay, so far that's what I've got, right? I'm just gonna go ahead, I'm gonna kick this into overdrive real quick, and I'm gonna throw down the bars, throw down the gradient. Like I said, I am going a little bit quicker than I expect you guys to, obviously. You're still learning, and that's an excellent thing to do. But for right now, I am going to go quick because I don't want to bore you with an insanely boring demo. Okay, just like so. I'm going to go ahead and grab every other one, holding down Shift. And delete. Now I've got my bars, right? If I want some of these bars on top of Japan, right, we'll say 1, 2, actually, ooh, I got an idea. So there were 2 businessmen, so we'll have 2 bars overlap. What? Some kind of genius. No, I'm just kidding. All right, okay, so letting my illustration have a little bit more meaning to it. That's kind of working. Okay, looking pretty good. Let's see what else I can do. So I want to go ahead and eventually I'm going to turn a mask into this to mask off my mask out my dollar sign. So I'm going to lock up my layers here real quick. Oops. I'm just going to make a little wall of dollar signs. Dollar signs. So many dollar signs. All right, I definitely want them bigger than that. That's pretty tiny. Let's go ahead and change that up. I'm going to go to my properties, scroll down to character. Let's go large and in charge here. I don't know about you guys, I don't like that font at all. That just does not gel with me. Let's pick a different font. Ooh, yeah. Oh, that's the font I want. That's exactly what I want. Let's go. Ooh, yeah. Yep, this is what I'm talking about. That's what I want. Now we decided on going yellow, I think, right? So we're going to go ahead and change this out. Oh, you're right. Let's do like a lime green instead. You're right. Good call. Okay, now I'm looking at this lime green and I'm thinking that Japan back here needs to be a little bit more red. I think it's kind of a missed opportunity. It's a little too orange for my taste. Let's just pull it down. Yeah, look how much that green and that red kind of push against each other. That's looking pretty good. All right, so I'm going to go ahead, let's see, create outlines. Now this is no longer text. These are just individual shapes. I'm going to ungroup them. Get rid of the extra jazz that I don't really need. Okay, cool. That's looking pretty good. So far, so good. I'm going to go ahead and mask this stuff out. There's a couple different ways that we can do this masking process. I'm going to go ahead and copy Japan here. I'm going to paste it on top. Oops. Paste it on top real quick. Let's see if it's going to let me do this. Oop. Nope. There we go. So I'm just going to grab each little continent here. Right click, I'm making a clipping mask. Okay, good. So there's my Japan with dollar signs, pretty much as described. Now again, I'm not worried about the text. I'm only thinking about the illustration. I want a quick little background as well, so I'm just going to make one large shape in the background. We're going to do a gradient. I don't know where my gradient window went off to. And then remember that you can always rotate your gradient however you want. Change the colors of your gradient. Like a deep blue. Oops. Like a light blue. Okay, that's pretty happy with that. I think that looks pretty good. Pretty much what I described kind of the first time around. Yeah, there's before. And there's after. Now I can still play with this. It's still looking pretty good. But once I have this and I'm happy with it, I'm going to go ahead, excuse you there, I'm going to go ahead and save this as well. I'll save this as a PDF. And then I would switch over into InDesign. Now, for InDesign, all I'm going to end up doing is placing this PDF on one of the 2 pages. So I'd make a 2-page document. 8.5 by 11, 2-page document, or I could make a 11 by 17 1-page document and just split it myself. That works just as fine too. I'm going to go ahead and place this image. Then I'm going to copy and paste the text from the article itself, and I will work on manipulating and editing the actual placement of the text in that article. So in the end of the day, everything that we're doing, really, the hard part is the thumbnailing. It's coming up with the idea itself, an idea that you actually like. The illustration side does not have to be super challenging. If you want cartoon characters, if you want different elements done really quick, but the actual illustration side can be super, super easy. And then InDesign is extremely easy. You're just copying and pasting. I'm not making anything in Illustrator, or excuse me, in InDesign. I'm actually just kind of placing and pasting text and font and different elements here as well. So, let's see if we can get this going here before the end of class. Maybe kind of, sort of. Okay, we're going to go ahead and create new. In my case, I think what I'm going to do is just make a 11 by 17 and split it down the middle myself. I think that works best for me. But again, I could easily make 2 pages of an 8.5 by 11. I'm going to do 11 by 17 though. Oops. Okay, 11 inches, 17 inches, 1 page, create. Just like I did with the Photoshop document, I'm going to go ahead and drag out a ruler so that I know where halfway is. So clicking on the ruler, dragging out, coming to 8.5, just like so. So that tells me page 1, page 2. I'm going to go ahead and place my PDF in here. I just dragged and dropped it right in there. Keep in mind this little hot pink line that's around there, that's your bleed. You want to make sure that you never have text that goes beyond that bleed. It's not going to work out well for you. Bless you. I'm going to go ahead and make a new layer, lock up the previous layer. That way I can't mess with my illustration. And at this point I can just start typing out my actual text. Maybe there's a quote that I like. Let's go back to the article real quick. Let's see. Okay, we'll go ahead and grab that quote. Paste. Copy, come over here to my characters. Much larger. Maybe change the font color. Just plain white will do. Throw up those quotes so we know that it is in fact a quote. Okay, this is looking halfway decent. Maybe I want to do like some kind of shadow, or maybe for like my text here, maybe I want to have like a stroke around them, like a little outline. Have it stand out. Okay. Then I'm going to come over here, throw on the title of the article. Again, much larger text. Okay. Maybe I want to center that. Looks good. I'll throw on the name of the author. That's important. Which mine is not listed. It's just listed as the Associated Press. So I'll have to come up with a link for that. To cite my source. Get the actual article, copy. And so what's nice about InDesign, I made a text box here. I'm going to paste my article, right? Now, my article is falling off the page. You can tell because I get this little plus here at the bottom saying, hey, there's more. Well, all I need to do, if I want to make a 3-column paper here, I just click on that little plus, draw out a new column. There's more text. This is the same window just being extended. There's more, right? There's my article. Now I'd want to even these things out a little bit, you know, put the actual Associated Press here so I can cite my source. But very quickly I have a 2-page illustration, article, illustration on the left-hand side, ready to go. Now yours does not need to look like this. You can have your illustration in any other way that we've talked about so far in class. But overall, as we're going along here, that is the complete overall process. I expect you guys to do exponentially better than I did in about 15 minutes of a demonstration. But as we're going along, as you're going coming up with concepts, as you're using Photoshop, as you're using Illustrator, when you get stuck, call me. Let me help you, right? But all of this can be done very, very quickly. This is your midterm. Take time on it. But you can tell that it can be done very quickly. So that means that you, the artist, can spend a whole lot more time making it precise and making it as professional as possible. Do you guys have any major questions, issues, problems? Okay. All right, so I've gone ahead, recorded this whole demo.